up, guys? My name is Milky Chopsticks, and today is episode 1 in our little Apex tutorial here. I wanted to put out, got inspired to make a couple videos for a couple friends of mine who are new to the game, who don't really understand it, and a lot of videos aren't explained the best. So we are going to talk about the basics, and we'll run over my settings to start, and then we'll talk about some movement, some aiming stuff you can do in the firing range, and that'll be episode 1. So to start here in my settings, I play on PC. This is important to know. I play on PC. I have a 5900X and a 3080 Ti. I play at 1440p on the 240 hertz. And with that, I do play on mouse and key. So I'll give you a basis for a controller sensitivity to try. But to start, if it's on console, all of this should be the same, I'm pretty sure. But the only thing that'll be different is like the mouse and keyboard and the video settings. So to start, the first setting will be interact prompt style. This should actually be on compact for less screen clutter. You can turn off button hints or you can leave them on. Some people like them off. I don't really care. It shows people that I'm on mouse and key. It doesn't matter either way. For crosshair damage feedback, so let me pick up a gun here. So what this will do is when you have it on X, when you shoot, there'll be an X on your screen. It'll change color when you kill somebody. And you can do an X with the shield icon. It'll show what level shield they have. I play with it off just because Apex is known for having a lot of screen clutter. So the less that you have on your screen while you're trying to aim will help you. Damage numbers are stacking. So that's the numbers you see above the head that count up there. There's also floating. So it shows each damage. And then you can have both, where it'll stack and float. I just go with stacking, just so you can call out damage numbers of how much you hit people for, or you know mentally how much you hit them for. Like I hit him for 98 on a red. I know roughly how much health he has. Next will be ping opacity, which should be on faded. That's just how bright the ping is on your screen. Obituaries you should have on. That shows the kill feed. That'll help you a lot with determining who to fight or what's happening. Minimap rotation off. Weapon cycle, weapon auto cycle on empty. I have on off. You could have it on. So what it'll do is when you're shooting and you run out of ammo, it should auto swap, if I'm remembering this correctly. When you're out of ammo, it'll swap to the next weapon. I personally just have it off. Auto sprint off. If you're on controller, you should actually have this on. But when you play with auto sprint on, one of the things that always bugs me is if I'm playing with auto sprint and I pick up a gun like the Eva, where like strafing or like walking forward around a corner, when you shoot, kind of like do this weird thing. Well, it'll start sprinting. So when you walk, your weapon's always out. When you run, they kind of put it down. Double tap to sprint off. You shouldn't really have that on. Jetpack control, that's for Valk. You can have that on either. Incoming damage feedback, I like to have 2D. For whatever reason, my config files that I have, I changed to mirror my sensitivity, but it just saved everything the way it is. You can use it in there to set like your ADS sensitivity and your mouse sensitivity if you want to change anything specific. Back to this damage, incoming damage feedback 2D. It just makes it easier to see where you're getting shot from. Taking damage, taking damage closes death box or crafting menu. This should always be off because when you try to armor swap in a box, or you're trying to get into a box for something, if I get shot right now, it'll pull me out of the box. So it's super important for armor swapping. Off-screen portraits, you can have it on or off. I usually like to have it off and hop up, pop up, just less screen clutter. Streamer mode, I don't play with streamer mode on. Anonymous mode, I don't play with it on. Basically what these will do is it'll hide names of all the people. And then anonymous mode will make it so they can't see who you are. You can turn this on or off. I don't really care. Performance display is for up here in the top right, in this part of the... Change that. In this part of the screen, you'll be able to see your FPS, ping, packet loss, things like that. I like to be able to look at that to see if I'm lagging or something, because it will influence what I do in the game. And then for club invites, whatever, communication filter, that's just for the chat. This is if you can receive club invites. My article is custom 339, 255, 248. I do change it around. You can have it on whatever. My laser sight is also the same, basically. I don't play with colorblind. I used to play with deuteranopia or whatever. It just changes like the red. But the part I didn't like is that when I'd be using a digi, it's sometimes hard to see that blue in there. It doesn't cover as well, or it doesn't stick out as much to me as the red. So that's all for the settings. I mean, subtitles, enable accessible chat, whatever. I keep all these off, annoying. Then for mouse and key, 1600 DPI, 0.6, 1.1 for the ADS. Pretty standard stuff. I think it's around like 43, 42 centimeters per 360. Mouse accel off, you should never have that on. Mouse invert, I don't know why you'd play with that. Lighting effects, I don't know. I don't have any lighting effects on my mouse. I've heard this causing issues and it doesn't even really work anyways. It does sometimes, but sometimes it doesn't. I'll have to try that because I do have problems with when I'm flicking and I die, I'll click off the screen. Or if I try to flick and I do something, I'll sometimes tab out. These are my keybinds. The only important ones are jump on scroll wheel down and forward on scroll wheel up. This is good for bee hopping, good for tap strafing. Cues. I do have my toggle on V for, I've been trying to learn to super glide. And I'm actually more consistent on it with my mouse using scroll wheel and the thumb button. I do use the back one. The back one is for crouching, front one is for grenades. But you can use C or V to super glide. And these are the rest. Nothing very special other than the grenade on mouse 5. I don't use a lot of stuff on bottom. And for controller, you can use whatever. I personally like to change mine. So, or I was playing around with it, and I think the bumpers I would like more for aiming down sights and shooting, because it's like a mouse click instead of like a pull. If you don't have trigger stops, but you can play on whatever you want. Stick layout default. I don't mess with any of this. This one's actually important. So if you have hold, it makes it so you have to hold to use or tap to use, hold to reload. Just have tap for both. Crouch is toggle, aim is hold, unless you like toggle aim. Trigger dead zones, I don't mess with that. Menu cursor is there. The only part I would mention is your look in ADS. 4-3 linear with none or small dead zone is what what the majority of controller pros and top players use. So I would say that's a good place to start. Obviously you can play whatever sensitivity you want. There's always outliers in any game. The same thing goes for like mouse and key. I do change my sensitivity a lot. I play in 0.6. Some days I play on 1.3. And that's like playing 42, 43 centimeters per 360 to like 19. I do even go to like 1.6 sometimes. But that'll be something we can talk about later. Movement dead zone on small, inverted look off, vibration off. You shouldn't have vibration off because, I mean, you're trying to use your thumb to make adjustments. And it would be like if I was trying to aim, right, and I'm tracking, and then all of a sudden my mouse is doing this while I'm trying to track. That'd be annoying. I don't know anything about ALCs. And then for video, I play borderless window. You could play full screen if you want. If the mouse cursor lock actually works, I'll probably switch to full screen. But I usually do it so my game doesn't close all the way. 1440, the brightness thing does nothing for me. So it just stays at 50. FOV, 110. I played on 104 for a while, which I actually liked. Whichever one you like more, just play around with it. FOV ability scaling, it'll make it so when you Octane Stam or Bloodhound ult, it'll change your FOV, which you don't want. Because when your FOV changes, your sensitivity changes. So you don't want this on. Sprint view shake on minimal. Because obviously you gotta be doing this the whole time when you're trying to look around. VSync disabled, you shouldn't have that on. It causes a lot of issues with input lag. You can't use the video reflex, but I usually have this on. And then the rest of the settings are literally on low, except for this. The difference is when I have it on none, my game looks like a potato, which I don't mind, but I've been getting 240 FPS with it on very low, which just adds some texture to the game so it looks a tiny bit nicer. But you can use either one, but I have everything off. Anti-aliasing, I know some people like. Basically what it does is smooths out edges. But I think it's easier to actually see people when they're farther away because they look like little black dots. So, and then audio, whatever you want to do. None of this is very important. That's something you have to play around with yourself just to make it sound good. Just make sure you can hear footsteps. I do have music and lobby off because that is the most annoying thing. So, now that we have your settings, obviously you know how to move around. A couple tips for moving. One of the things you should master is you sprint, slide, jump. This is like the fundamental for everything you do in the game. So you should be able to slide jump. It's super useful for like getting behind cover, for moving around. It's easier on M and K than controller, but you can also B-hop. You can't do it on roller. I played on console for a couple of years and I could B-hop. So make sure you know how to slide. You know, I would suggest getting into the firing range and just moving around. Just seeing how things work, you know, climbing. Sliding straight out of a climb. We're not going to go into a full-blown tutorial, but if you're on M and K, you can tap strafe. You can't do it on controller. I think it's kind of lame personally, but you can look up a tutorial. I mean, nobody's getting banned for it, so I won't fault you for using it. So the next thing we'll talk about is a quick little warm-up I like to do. If you're warming up, or you're just trying to understand recoil, that's what we should get into first. Recoil patterns in this game are kind of big, but you can negate them. But sitting here and just learning a little bit of how to control your recoil will help you immensely. And then the other thing you can do is also called aim smoothing, where you drastically reduce it just by strafing left to right. It'll get rid of most of the recoil. I have some pretty terrible flicks at times. So, just hopping in here and trying to shoot at some of these targets is actually a pretty good way to warm up and start understanding the guns. You should pick up every gun and like familiarize yourself with it. You don't have to use all of them, but you know, I suggest picking up either your 2 favorite guns, or if you're very new to the game and you haven't used a lot, pick the 2 guns you like the least and warm up with those. So for me, I like most guns, but if there are ones I was uncomfortable with, I don't run the Devo very often, so I'll pick it up Gold Mag Turbo. Don't pick up, you can pick up a stock, but I leave the barrel off because all that does is make the recoil easier to control. Another gun I am not so great with would probably be the... I feel pretty comfortable with most of the other guns. Probably the alternator. I don't use the alternator very much. Put a digi on it. So pick up a couple guns that you don't like or you want to warm up with. And you're just going to stand here and try to one-clip targets. One of the things you can do is go into customize range. And you can turn on things like you see at the top of my screen. It shows how many shots I've hit, damage, headshots. If you go into customize range, you can change that. You can change it. You can use a timer, infinite reloads you should have on, hit markers you can have on or off. I think they're kind of distracting. Set the target speed to whatever you want. I always set mine to run. And then shield level, either go epic or mythic. I like mythic because it's how much damage I'm doing to someone with a red shield. I would turn this on, just more bullets. For movement, set the strafe to random, random stance, random movement speed, no shooting, dynamic spawning. I mean, you can have it on or off. I should set it to close. And then now that you have all the dummies spawning close, just sit here and work on one-clipping dummies with both of the guns at different ranges. If you want to practice more long range, you can hop up here for a little bit of mid-range. And then you can go farther back. Like I said, I'm not a big Devo fan. I usually just like to stand at the front and work on my close range. And that'll just get you warmed up, ready to go. I think warming up is huge. It'll help negate those bad games that you have in the beginning where you feel like you can't hit a shot. So just practice shooting. A little bit of hip fire. You know, you can always practice moving while you shoot. A couple fundamentals for playing Apex, just to start. When you see somebody and you're gonna fight, especially in like mid to close range, don't do this. Just stand still. You should always be moving while you're fighting. And you should also practice moving and shooting while you hip fire. Hip fire in this game is super good. As you can see, I move super slow when I do this, but when I'm hip firing, I don't aim as slow. Or I don't move as slow. So the hip fire in the game is very good. So you should practice strafing and shooting. So once you've gotten a little bit of the basics down, you've warmed up, you played around with some of the guns, and I'd recommend trying all of them, even down to some of the like single shot weapons. Just get used to them. Do not warm up with care pack guns. These are not guns you're gonna get every single game. don't go in here and pick up Kraber Wingman. This is not going to help you. I mean, it's fine to check them out and familiarize yourself, but don't warm up with the Wingman or Kraber every game. Warm up with guns you're gonna use. It's like I'm going to warm up to play basketball by throwing a football to my friend. I don't use a football. I might go out there during practice and play football. I might do it for fun, but this isn't realistically what you're going to be running every game. So you should just pick up and mess around with all the different guns. And then once you're warmed up and you familiarize yourself, I'd say, you know, as long as you donate, you know, 10 to 30 minutes every day, just hop in here, mess around with new guns, different guns. Run around one clip dummies. If you get bored, sometimes I'll turn on the shoot back. But I spend a lot of time in the range. And I think it's good to practice inside the game. So, once you feel warmed up and you spend a little bit of time in here, there's really 3 game modes in the game. You have mixtape, ranked, and the pubs. If you are new to the game and you want to work on your mechanics, aka fighting, just shooting people, how to position yourself in a fight, you just want to get familiarized, just hop in here and play a bunch of mixtape. It's got the highest density of fights. When you play pubs, or especially ranked, you might not get enough fight all the time. And I think ranked is the best way to gauge where you are. So it's fine to play ranked, but I think you need to donate your time to getting better at the game. That's why you're here. So you should play mixtape. I play a ton of mixtape. I think mechanics and fighting is huge. Pubs are also good for taking the mechanics out of mixtape and just going in and doing it in like a more realistic environment where you have to loot, get guns, get cells. You don't have unlimited heals. I think pubs is a good place for that. So you should start in mixtape. Just sit here and play mixtape. I think it's super fun. But when you're playing, I don't want to say don't necessarily play the objective. You should play the objective to get used to playing with a team, but take every fight. Even if you're at a disadvantage, try and fight it. That'll help you just be a better player and understand what you can and can't fight, and kind of limit test yourself. And then in pubs, you should do the same thing. I think a huge thing in pubs that nobody talks about is you should try and land with like one other team at a POI. That way you can get used to what it's like to be contested, which will happen in ranked. And then once you feel comfortable in pubs, play a couple games of ranked, or do a couple sessions, see how high you can get. And then when you feel like you're having a really hard time climbing, just make sure you keep doing all your other practice. You know, hop on and play your games of mixtape, play games of trios or duos, and do your time in the firing range. And I promise you will improve. The other thing we can talk about is some other tips outside of the game. For controller players, I think just sitting there in mixtape is like the way to go. I think that is huge. And the firing range, I think those are like your best friends. I think the matchmaking in pubs right now is really difficult, so it could be a really good pace to practice. I think you're always going to get better by playing against somebody better than you. And when you play and you're playing to get better, make sure you have a purpose, make sure you have clear goals, what you want to improve on, and play to improve, not to have fun, if that makes sense. You still have a good time. A huge part of the game is what your mood is. If you're in a bad mood, everybody in the party's in a bad mood, you're gonna play worse. It happens every single game, even when I'm playing with randoms. If me or them come off really hot and really aggressive and not very nice, the game's not gonna go well. But if we're all having a good time, we don't have to be talking. but as long as nobody's tilted, then we'll have better games. So, I mean, play for fun, but play with clear objectives, clear things you want to improve on. If you want to work on shooting your gun, play control. If you want to work on positioning yourself not to die, play control with the idea of die less. You know, if you go, I really just want to be able to hold my own in ones, go fight every 1v1, 1v2, 1v3. If you get really nervous in 1v2s and 1v3s, play solo duos. That's a good way to alleviate that. You're going to get like absolutely destroyed for like quite a few games, and you have a good game, then you get destroyed, but it's a really good way to improve. Or hop into control and try to fight as many 1v2s, 1v3s, like play away from your team. But as a controller player, I think these two are your best two options. I think pubs are also good for getting familiarized with the game, the maps. And then ranked is what I see. If you're trying to get better at the game, your rank is your benchmark. Like that's what you're trying to do, is climb the highest you can on the ladder. So if you're playing on mouse and keyboard though, there are a couple apps you can use. Not apps, games. If you play on Steam, which I do, you can use either Kovaaks Aim Trainer, which costs money, or Aim Labs has actually become very good. I recently played it on stream the other day, and I had a very good time with Aim Labs. I think it's really great. I personally like Kovaaks because the amount of scenarios and control I have over everything, and it's a lot more just focused to the point for me. It's just hop in, aim train, get out. And I will put my Kovaaks share code below if anybody wants to try it, check it out. Pure G also has a really good aim routine. It's really hard, but the point of it is to be hard. So yeah, those are the ways you can improve. And then on the next part of this, we'll talk a little bit more about how to fight with your team. Talk about team fighting a little bit. And then after we talk about team fighting, we'll talk about legends, weapons, and play styles. And that'll be a really long video. This one shouldn't be as long, but it's a good place to start, to give you a clear objective, to start improving and getting better at the game, which is what we're here for. We want to get better. So, and don't let anybody tell you how good you are, how bad you are. Focus on improving, and don't let anybody shame you for your input. A joke is fine. I am known for saying everything is controller's fault. I have my own opinions. I'm allowed to. You're allowed to have your own opinions, but focus on improving, and don't change the inputs unless you want to, or don't think you have to play a certain way. Just play with the intent on improving. And then make sure you watch out for the next video. Stop by the stream if you have time. Leave a comment below if there's anything else you would like me to talk about, or have any questions or anything I can help out with. Or if you have any tips of your own, put them down below. But that'll do it. I'll catch you guys later. Hope you enjoy the video, and I hope you're able to climb a little bit higher than your peak. Bye.